Hello everybody and welcome back to Movies 24. On tonight's episode we are joined once again by the director of Whispers of Yesterday, Mr. Jack Whitby.
Right.
Welcome back to the show, Jack.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So last time you were on the show, Jack, I asked you a couple of ideas about your storyline for the film.
Yeah, yes you did, yes, I remember.
This time, as you're getting close to the release of the film, I'd like to ask you about the poster for your film and see what ideas you have forming for it.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant, yes.
So, my first question is, what is your first idea for the poster?
Well, I did have multiple ideas for the poster, but I'll just talk about the first idea we had. So obviously, researching some into posters, I was looking into obviously movie posters, seeing what they did, and what they did to make them, such creative posters and make them stand out to the audience. Because something I really picked out from researching is that if a poster, it sounds really simple, but if a poster doesn't look nice, then there's not much point in the poster being there because no one comes to see the film. And that sounds very basic, but I was thinking if you create a poster that people are going to want to have hung up in their bedroom, or maybe a poster to put up on their wall, that's something I want to aim to do. So I had a couple of ideas forming about it, and I've decided to have John featured on and obviously John being the main character of the film, as we spoke about in the storyline, having possibly a medium shot of John, because obviously a lot of other posters I've looked at have medium shots of their character. So I thought I'd have a medium shot of John, and quite a large portion of the film is filmed in this kind of like woody area. There's quite a lot of towns, church and the grave is quite a significant thing, so that's why there's two ideas for that. But if we go to the initial idea of the woods, there's a scene in the trailer, without spoiling too much, where let's just say John goes after one of the gangsters that are attacking his niece, and it's set in this beautiful kind of wood area where there's lots of you've got a lovely shot of the niece walking through just before she gets harassed, of these lovely orangey leaves, nice bright colours. And then a bit later on, John comes up there and sorts the guy out. So something I quite like about that is the fact that you could have you have a nice opportunity to maybe take a photo on location, which I think is another good idea to have, because I feel that cutting out a model of John may link a bit much towards the aspect of a magazine front cover. Magazine front covers seem to cut out their models more than anything. Whereas for a poster, they seem to have quite a lot of backgrounds. I don't know if you've noticed that when you've been looking into posters. So I have this thought of having John by this tree. Maybe it could be at the point in the film where John's hiding behind a tree just before he attacks this character, or possibly it could be at the stage where John's just leaning on it, because it shows that I want it to convey what John's like, and he is quite a lazy character. He really is. Obviously, he fakes his own death for all the right reasons. But faking his own death, he kind of sleeps around, doesn't have any tax to pay, doesn't he? Just any money he can scrounge just goes on cigarettes. He literally is a really lazy person. So I could kind of convey this by having him lean on the tree, or maybe possibly sitting on a bench in that lovely kind of woody area. Because I feel like if you had John, maybe another idea I had is that if you had John on a bench. Now, this would be quite a long shot. Ever seen the poster for Forrest Gump? And he's sitting on the bench with a white background.
Yep.
It's similar to that, this idea, and it's taken quite a lot of inspiration from that. But he sits on a bench, and I can have a long shot out, so you get these two, and I believe where the bench is set, there's two nice trees beside it, so you get the symmetry in the photo. So you just have John Longshot sitting on the bench, having a cigarette, these two lovely orangey trees full of leaves, and leaves on the ground. And I feel that creates, like, you could say, conveys John's laziness of him sitting on the bench, can't be able to stand up and stuff. But it also just has this nice warm feel to the film. This kind of, it loosely interprets, intent, because it's got these like warm, fiery colours, but it's kind of in a looser tone where it's leaves. And I feel that also creates what I was saying earlier about, having a nice poster for the audience to look at. But continuing from this, continuing from that idea, the other idea I had while being out the woods is having him just lean on the tree. You do get the similar kind of crunchy, warm colours of the leaves, but it more focuses on a medium shot of John just leaning on his tree, looking quite mean and aggressive. And I feel that by what I'll do by that is interest people into coming to see the film, because if they see this quite mean character, and one that springs to mind is Taken, the kind of dark colours. I could have these darker colours of him leaning on a tree, and that shows him in such a mean light, you could say, such an intense light, and the fact that people are going to think, who is this guy? You know, Whispers yesterday, okay, I'll go and look up the trailer for that. Oh, the trailer looks good. See if I have then I will attach them to see the magazine front covers to see reviews on the film. So I feel like the poster is a stepping stone for the rest of the three, you could say, marketing techniques, as I've called them. And obviously the final idea, as I mentioned at the start, with the church, is have him at the church. You could just have a nice rubber in front of his gravestone, maybe behind his gravestone, because that's going to create confusion in the audience, thinking, you know, why is he by a gravestone? You know, much similar to, I know, a film that you're working on called Grave Robber, is it?
Yep.
It's quite similar to that. You're going to think that people are going to think, you know, why is he at this? Like, why is he at this cemetery? Is he a grave robber, like your film could be based on, or is he? There must be, or there's some deeper meaning. Like for my film, it's his own grave. Similarly, you could just have him simply in front of the church. You could get a lovely shot of him, maybe walking up the pathway, mid-motion of walking, looking down and having a cigarette, looking quite depressed, and at this church. Because then not only do you have that convey to the audience about, you know, what's happening to John, why is he looking quite, you know, down in the dumps, why is his character so sad, which he is sad, which conveys a bit about his character. But it also conveys a bit about the story, being at the church. You know, why is he at this church? Is he a very religious man? Which he is, obviously, as you know from my brainstorming video. Is he quite a, you know, does he have some relevance to this place? And obviously, yes, he does. He's buried there, as people think. And he's there every day, more or less, to see his niece visit his grave. And that's the point. That's why he knows something's gone wrong when she stops visiting. So I feel that I could use the post as a great opportunity to kind of convey to my audience about the storyline and the character of John. And those are just some ideas that I thought of, that I've been getting ready to kind of base on my poster.
Okay, well, that's sounding good. Do you have any other ideas for your poster, or have you just summarised all your ideas in just then?
No, there is more ideas, and I'm glad you asked this one, because obviously, being at the stage I am, the posters aren't complete, so there's still many room for me to kind of have justified and kind of look around and just try new ideas, basically. And another idea I had was kind of using different camera shots. So, firstly, a close-up shot. And though the inspiration for this poster came from an action movie, and I presume you've ever seen the Marvel film Thor?
Yep.
Yeah, there's a poster for that film which I analysed, which kind of has a close-up of Thor and it has this red filter over it, and it simply just says the God of Thunder. And the red filter did look nice, but the thing that inspired me most about that was this close-up shot. And I thought, obviously, as you know quite a bit about my character now, John is this character that, you know, builds quite an intense atmosphere around him. He never looks happy, and he's always like this kind of a grouchy, monotone, you know, basically an angry guy, really, because he's just feels so low. And then when he feels that, obviously, his wife and child has died, when he feels that someone's going to take the last bit of family he has, obviously, because his brother of the, so the niece dad died from cancer. He's just gonna lose it, basically, and he does. He's just snapped. So I feel like having this close-up shot of maybe John putting this really intense face, you know, it could be. It sounds a bit comical, really, but it always comes to mind King Kong. Now, also, I know John's a human and Kong's a mad, you know, huge gorilla. But there's this poster, I think it's a poster of Kong, and he's kind of got this really screwed up face, looking mean. Now, obviously, John is not a 20-foot ape or whatever, but he is that kind of, you know, kind of more animalistic type character. So I feel if I had this close up on his face, you know, maybe even like make him run around the block a few times and get a few strands of sweat coming down, and just this really scrunched up face, looking like he's been in a fight, you could say. And even a bit of makeup on his cheek to make it look like he's bruised or something. I feel that could really interest people in, because if he just said that, and maybe there's a slogan for the film, like a tagline, like for example, the Dark Knight's tagline is, I think something like, "Welcome to the world without rules." No, perfect tagline to entice people into the audience, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. And obviously the red filter over the Thor thing really inspired me as well. And I thought about maybe if I had that, darkening the outside of the poster, so you kind of had these black corners, they kind of had smoky effect came in, and then maybe John's face quite a nice textured of like, dark. His skin would not, I wouldn't temper with the skin too much, maybe make it a little bit darker. So the poster looks a bit, dark and smoky, but it still has that effect of, his skin isn't like, it doesn't blend into the background as such. And I feel that's going to be a really good way to entice people into the audience. And another additional idea I had, messing around with new camera technique, well not new, but different camera shots, is a low angle photo. Reason I chose for this one is because when I analysed comparing some videos, trailers, posters, I stumbled across the Terminator Genesis poster, and I was kind of comparing that loosely to the Batman and Dark Knight poster. And I noticed that both of them use this low angle shot, which really, yourself from being a musician, it really does heighten like the look and the strength of your character. And obviously, yes, I want John to have a battle and have him look like he might struggle to win that battle. But as it comes down to it, I want John to, look like this big, powerful being. Like, how's this protagonist going to get stopped? Because obviously, he is the protagonist at the end of the day. He's just not as, you could say, heroic as some other films. He kind of is just like a normal guy who just does what he has to do to get through, is one of the lines in the play. So other than that, in this kind of, in that sense, that low angle, I could have, again, the church, have a low angle of him and the church in the background. Similarly, you could just have a simple one of him at the tree. The low angle shot gives quite a lot of variety for location as well. And so you probably will notice is that most of these I want to be taken on location rather than, in a white screen. The magazine will be a different story, that will be taken on a white screen, but for the poster, I quite want it to be on location. So obviously there's some additional ideas for you for what I want my poster consist of.
Okay, that's sounding really good, but will there be any other characters on the poster? Will there just be John situated on the poster? Will you try and infer put maybe your antagonist on the poster or the niece on there?
That's a really good question, Anthony. Anthony. Something that I have thought into is including more characters. Now, I don't think that I would want to include the niece on there. I feel like I want her to be a character introduced in the film. However, I'm not sure about the antagonist, because obviously, as you know from there's a couple of antagonists. There's the antagonist played by the actor Daniel Pitts, and there's another antagonist called Mash. His name's Mash in the film, won't reveal his real name. But Mash in this film, it sounds like quite a silly name. And that's what I initially thought when I was researching names. But when it comes down to it, it is quite a chavvy name, really. It's shortened for Matthew. And obviously you call Matthew Matt, but the guy doesn't like Mash. It's just kind of like, if he went to the police station, they call him Matthew. So he calls himself Mash to kind of cover his tracks a little bit. And also, as you know, this is the false hero in the film, where he actually looks like he's helping John, giving him a weapon, but actually he attacks John himself, because obviously he's corrupted by these bad guys and tries to take his niece. So I did have this kind of idea you could have John closer to the camera, but maybe I could have like a faded out kind of photo of Mash in the corner. So if you imagine literally a tiny, just in the top right hand side, a half darkened out photo of Mash. Maybe you could just have half Mash's face looking cross, and then John's face covering the rest. The only problem with that, I found, is that would it take too much away from, John himself? What do you think? Well, do you think that if you had Mash on the, as well as this kind of half darkened out, do you think it'd take too much attention away from John, or?
I'm not so sure, because you see some other posters, such as Thor posters you mentioned. They have another set of posters where you have one poster with Thor, one poster with Jane, one poster with Odin, one poster with Loki. And so it sort of shows some of the main characters. That also has in the Dark Knight Rises poster.
Yeah.
You have Batman, Bane, Catwoman, all the other characters along. So it could be a way of trying to introduce him, but if you make the poster correct, you could sort of say, have a tagline on it to make it look like he is a hero, but then you find out within the film he's not.
Yeah, that's a good idea actually. I did have a thought about having this tagline which could say something along the lines of, you know, does every hero need a friend or something like that? Question mark. Then you've kind of got that kind of conflict between is this guy good, is it bad? And you made another good point of saying that most films have several posters. So maybe just focusing on John, and then in other posters you could have, you know, the antagonist, the niece, the two antagonists. Because then you could have obviously the John versus Dan, who is actually an antagonist. You could have, you know, you could say something like, you know, defeat this guy, or something like that, to make it obvious that these two hate each other. The niece and John, you could have kind of this conflict between, you know, do anything for family. Then you could have the antagonist. You could have Mash, the false hero, saying something like, does every hero need friends? And kind of having them in between. So you've got hate in between love. And then also you've got John by himself. So there's quite a few chances there for me to kind of make up this new kind of line of posters showing each of the characters in their own element. But obviously John will be featured in all of them, which will make quite clear to the audience that he's the main character. And I also like the idea of possibly having a tagline which possibly just having John on there, but symbolising that there's other characters in the film, to say he'll do anything for family, but what about his friends? You know, you could say something like that. Something along the lines that shows that he loves his family dearly, and that, or you could have something along the lines of someone betrays this man. And because the thing about my thriller film is that it's a betrayal revenge story, where a lot of them are just revenge. This one's betrayal as well, and hopefully that comes across clearly in the trailer. But overall, yeah, I've got a lot of ideas for different posters, and I'm quite happy that I've come here to talk to you today to kind of get some. You've even given me ideas yourself. So, just as a final question for you, what do you think about the ideas for the posters I have going?
I think they all sound really good, and you've seen thought through quite well and done a lot of research to understand the how posters are done, the effect posters will have on an audience. And I think that your ideas are amazing, and I think it would be a good idea to have several posters, because then you will have several different posters in several different locations, so people will get an idea of maybe the vastness of your film and sort of what could happen, and they will start asking questions which will make them want to find out if their questions and answers are correct or not, so they will have to go see your film.
Yeah.
Right, well, thank you for joining me, Jack, and I look forward to seeing the poster when it is released. And it sounds as the film Whispers of Yesterday is coming along really well.
Yeah, it is coming along really well. We're getting, obviously, as you said earlier, we're getting closer to release date, thinking about advertising it on front of magazines and the posters and the trailer coming out, released very, very soon. It is coming along really well, and the process is really getting there.
Okay, well, thank you for joining me, Jack.
It's been a pleasure.